Hello all again, this is Hamza Al-Madani. Today I will be describing mechanical behavior of materials, especially in tires, for class Introduction to Materials and IPI. Now giving a little background. So tire is a rubber member which gives the coating to the automobile. It consists out of the outer cover and the inner cover, the inner tube. For the inner tube assembly, so basically the inner tube is mounted over the wheel rim and the air inside this tube carries the whole load that provides coating. Also it provides the frictional contact with the road surface that allows the driving wheel to move with the vehicle. Nowadays there are some common type of tires that are being used these days, and these type of tires are bias ply tire, belted bias tire, radial ply tire, non-directional tires, and unidirectional tires. So processing of material. So someone's car tire is manufactured by rubbing multiple layers together, especially formulated rubber around a metal drum and a tire forming machine. So these different components of the tire are carried to a forming machine, where there is a worker or assembler cuts and positions the strips to form the different parts. Now, the first step after doing that, in the tire manufacturing process, is mixing the raw materials. And these raw materials are rubber, carbon black, sulfur, and some other materials. There are way too many of them to form this rubber compound. After the rubber is prepared, and it's sent now to the tire building machine, where worker builds up the rubber layers to form the tire. So after this, at this point, now this tire called a green tire. So when a green tire is finished, the metal drum collapses, allowing the tire assembler to remove the tire, and then the green tire is taken to the mold for curing. Now, this green tire is placed inside a large mold for curing process. A tire mold shaped like this monstrous metal clamp, which opens to reveal a large flexible balloon called a bladder. The green tire is placed over the bladder, and as the clamshell mold closes, the bladder fills with the steam and expands to the shape of the tire, and force the plank to tread the rubber against the raised interior of the mold. Now, during this curing process, the steam heats the green tire up to 280 degrees. Now, time and mold depends on the characteristics desired in the tire. So sometimes it takes more time, sometimes it takes less time. After curing is complete, the tire removed from the mold for cooling and then for testing. Each tire thoroughly inspected for flaws such as bubbles or voids in the rubber of the treads, sidewalls, and the interior of the tire. Then the tire is placed in the test wheel, inflated and spun. Now, sensors in the test wheel measure the balance of the tire and determine if the tire runs in a straight line or not. Because of the design and assembly of a modern tire, it's rarely one of them being rejected. So most of them will pass the test. Once the tire has been inspected and run on the test wheel, it moved to a warehouse for distribution. And this is a tire manufacturing. So basically this is how the process of material goes, and this is a plan that shows the easier way to maybe you can understand it. So it consists of the multiple steps and not very uniform steps. Sometimes you collect some materials from here and from there and you combine them together. Now, tire materials. At the time of the Second World War, staple cotton was the tire carcass. Now, later on, the material, this cotton was replaced with a rayon. After that, nylon was introduced because it's stronger and has more elastic and cooler in running than the rayon. Then trilene was introduced. Nowadays, the material of the modern tires are synthetic rubber, natural rubber, fabric and wire, along with the carbon black and other chemical compounds. They consist of a tread and a body. The treads provide the traction, while the body provides the containment for the quality of the compressed air. Now, for the cord of stabilizer belt, we have rayon, we have trilene, we have glass fiber or steel are used. Rubber used in the tires, blend of neutral and synthetic rubber, to which various chemicals are added to obtain desired properties like wear resistance, reduce the hysteresis, lessen internal friction. Now, the main part of the tires, there are some parts of the tires. The first one of them is the beads. So basically, beads are two rings that are made of steel, wire, and encased in a rubber. They hold the tire sidewalls snugly against the rim and prevents the tire from coming off. So now the second part, which is the body plies. So the rubberized fabric and cord wrapped around the beads form carcass or body of the tire. Now the treads, the third part. It's an outer surface of the tire comes in contact with the road. That's what we usually see for the tire. Back into inside of the tire, there are side walls. And the outer part of the tire that extends from the beads to the treads. Marking on the side wall provide the information about the tire. Now, moving to the next part, which is liner. It's a thin layer of rubber that is bonded to the inside of the plies, provide the leak-proof membrane for the tubeless tire. Moving to the next part, which is belts. Now the belts are used to strengthen the body plies and stiffen the tread. It also lies between the tread and plies. So this is a basic picture of the components of tire, which we can see and which we can't see. As I said, like the treads, as I said before in here, the treads is the outer cover of the tire, and also you can see the side of the walls. However, there are some hidden parts that we have talked about that we cannot see it, which is the inner layer, beads filler, beads, belted plies, and radial cord. These things are inside the tire, we cannot see it. And the picture on the right shows a better explanation or better visualized for the tire components. Now, for the tire properties. There are some unique properties for the tire, especially these days. And these properties are nose killing, uniform wear, load carrying capacity, speed capacity, corrosioning, power consumption, noise reduction, and balance. However, material process, the material process and microstructure property relationship. So in this section, we will see the relation between the structure and the properties of the three types of tires. The first type, which is bias ply tire, pellet bias tire, and radial ply tire. First of all, for the bias ply tire, So there are several textile plies are laid across each other, running from bead to bead in an alternative direction. So number of piles depends on the size of the tire itself and the load it has to carry. So it depends just about how much load it has to carry and how big and how small is the tire. So now the piles runs at an angle from bead to bead, which allows the body of the tire to flex easy or easier. Now, improved cogen, hence now it's improved cogen and smooth ride on rough roads. So there are some weaknesses, which it reduces traction at high speed and increase rolling resistance. Belted bias tire. Bias tire with belts added to increase tread stiffness. Also, belts do not run around the sidewalls. They lay under the tread area only. Belts and plies run at different angles, offer some reduction in rolling resistance over a bias ply tire. This also provides a smooth ride of tire and a good traction. Now, all of the past two types compared to this type, here in the radial ply tire, the plies run straight across from bead to bead, and also has a very flexible slide walls and stiff treads, giving it a very stable footprint. It consists of a carcass ply formed by textile arcs running from one bead to another one, or to another bead. So now, each ply is laid at an angle of 90 degrees and to the direction of the tire rolling. At the top of the tire crown or under the tread, a belt made up of the several plies reinforced with the metal wire laid. Now, these crown plies laid one on the top each other. So one crown plies is in here, so the second one is just above it or beneath it. So they're on top of each other. Now they are overlap at the angle determined by the type of the tires. Also, the side walls can bend easy, and the choke absorbing capacity and the choke absorb capacity is 25% more than the bias ply tire or cross ply. Also, it's a lower rolling resistance, and hysteresis loss leads to less fuel consumption. Also, it has a longer tread life because of the less heat built in a tire. Now, braking efficiency on wet roads, it's better because of the great sidewalls flexibility and the tread stiffness. Also, it's a better steering characteristics. While taking turns, it has a less tendency to distort and lift off the road from one side. Also, it has a really larger resistance to puncture and cuts and impacts in the tread areas. So this is basically the three types of tires that I have described and how they shaping and how they form. When I have, like for example, I have mentioned the layers, the one on top of each other. So now here on the left we have the biased ply tire. In the middle we have a radial tire or radial ply tire, and now for the third one on the right we have bias belted tire or bias belted ply tire. Thank you so much for listening. See you next time.